Good morning, Adam.
Good morning, Gary. How are you?
I'm fine. So I've got Adam Hergenrother with me today. Adam, where are you from?
Burlington, Vermont.
Burlington, Vermont. That's where you get coats, right?
In maple syrup.
Yes, that's exactly right. So Adam, you've been in the real estate business how long?
13 years.
Wow. Now, what did you do before that?
I was a financial underwriter. And so I started underwriting notes. And as I was underwriting things, I was meeting with business owners. And I realized that when I started underwriting these things, I thought these people were gifts. And then I realized after started meeting with them, I'm like, if this guy can do it, then maybe I can. And that's what kind of jumped me into the whole real estate world.
So tell me about your organization. Last year what was the production of your company?
Yeah, we did a little over 11 million in GCI. We had a 21.7% profit margin. It was about $2.2 million. And we did how many transactions? About 1,800 transactions or so that we did. This year, we've increased all of that, which is exciting. We had our most productive month ever. We had 275 pendings in the month of May. In the last 60 days, we did 477 pendings. And the cool thing that actually the stat that I'm most proud about, besides the profitability, is that we have over a 95% retention rate for all of our agents. And that's been a big focus for us as the last 24 months of putting, culture first and profit second.
So let's talk about the market, my friend. The weird thing that's a head scratcher is that what everyone thought would happen because of COVID-19 so far hasn't happened, right? I think you said it well. You said it was a limited supply of listings and pent up demand. But tell me from your cockpit, tell me what you're seeing.
Well, we all went into this expecting that there was going to be this massive drop off and almost like kind of at a cliff. And we kind of started preparing our organizations for that. And frankly, I'm still almost kind of expecting that to happen. And we just didn't see it. We didn't see it in our clients. We didn't see it with our agents. But what we did do is just position ourselves to be able to ride any season that came our way. And taking all the action that we needed to put into play, I think really set us up to be able to take advantage of the fact that we haven't hit that point yet.
So you think this is a delay, right? When you have 40 million people have filed for unemployment, we're looking at numbers that far exceed what we saw in the last Great Recession. So is that coming, or is real estate going to be one of the industries that just goes right on through it?
I wish I had a crystal ball to answer that question. What we can see, though, is that personal savings is actually up at an all-time high right now, which I'm sure you've seen some of those numbers.
Oh, yeah. Because people are spending less money.
Yeah, people aren't going out and spending it. And I think the stimulus that came in obviously supported the economy for a couple months. And I think the government, if you will, is kind of at a wait and see what happens moment right now to kind of, do we need to do anything else, or do we just allow the economies to turn back on and keep that clicking? I think what contributed to the fact that real estate is staying there, that's more locally controlled, right? I mean, it's not like you're waiting on manufacturing to produce products. Or I went to a bike shop the other day and they're like, we don't have any bikes because our suppliers can't supply the bikes. And so they're pretty much out of bicycle sales. And I think for housing, it's up to a consumer to put it on. And I think people are becoming a little bit more familiar and comfortable with what's happening in the marketplace, and also wanting to get the highest value that they can. And I think most areas are still sellers market, and they're putting their house in the market and they're writing offers within 4 hours, and they have 3 or 4 offers. And so that news spreads to other consumers, and then agents are picking up on that and also calling and saying, hey, Gary, I know you didn't want to sell last year, but I might be able to give you $15,000 more for your house. And they go, well, sign me up. And we're seeing it. And then buyers are corresponding and then paying that amount.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So we don't have a crystal ball. However, we have to project something, right? We just can't, right? The one of the lessons that I've learned in my life is that you have to act as the market, like the market you're going to be in, not the market you're in. Otherwise, you're always behind. You're always surprised by something happening. So talk to us about what's in your head, what you guys are doing in your business to prepare for whatever you think is going to happen.
It's a great question. And obviously being around you and taking your leadership about 24 months ago, we started playing in that season, if you will. I mean, we've been cutting expenses. We've been, if I look at it, one of the things that we did over the last 12 to 18 months, I think the first and foremost thing that has helped us as an organization is we put culture first and profit second. And it doesn't mean that profit isn't very close behind, but we got very, very intentional about people, about wanting to abide to our culture. And let me explain what I think our culture is. Our culture is about execution and model following. And so when I think about our culture of being execution and model following, we wanted to partner with the people who are willing to listen to our models, which we knew would put them in the best position to take advantage of whatever season we're about to play in. And so we laid out what we thought was a strategic business plan over the next 24 months ago, and really started implementing it with your help. And then as we did that, we started getting into business with people who wanted to be part of what we were doing and wanted to execute and wanted to follow the models. And as that started happening, which meant cutting expenses, which means eliminating distractions from all the other things. Like, an agent doesn't need to look at their business card 7 times and change their photo on it, right? Or manipulate a just listed card just to feel like they're doing something. So we just really narrowed down what an agent's job was to make it very easy. And at the core of what we're doing, one of the things that we emphasize on is to make agents' lives easier. And to make an agent's life easier is to not just give them money, right? It's to say, show up and do this one thing. And so we've narrowed that down from our lead generation strategy. You may have heard that one thing before, right? Narrowing that down to 20 real estate conversations per day, 5 SOI contacts per day, and 10 e-alert setups per day. And if they follow that model, right? Again, that's our culture is model following. If they follow that model, even if they suck in the beginning, they will naturally just get better because they learn how to handle objections over time. And it's just a consistency of numbers thing. Consistency over intensity will win the game, win the day all the time. So we've been doing this and putting this in place for the last 24 months. And I think we're just taking advantage of what we've been doing, not necessarily what we're doing now, because what we're doing now is just a pivot, if you will, of what we've been doing and maximizing and adding to what we've already been doing. We're not adding new things. We're just doubling down on what we've been doing, even eliminating even more expenses and even more distractions and just holding the line on there. And as we hold that line, we're starting to, agents are now feeling the benefit of what they're receiving financially from it, which then in turns a virtuous cycle because everybody else wants that. I mean, the last 3 months in a row, we've had somewhere about 15 to 20 agents doing 10 to 12 deals a month, which is outstanding, right?
Yeah. Well, let's go back and you rushed right through the 3 things that you think they should do. Slow down and say that again and explain your thoughts behind it.
Yeah. You mean on the lead generation side or just couldn't go? Yeah. So for us, we just came up with a very simple game plan that said, look, we ran the numbers. If you have 20 real estate conversations per day, right? 5 SOI contacts per day, which is, you can just be checking in with somebody. You didn't have to talk to them about real estate. It's just more of a check-in, right? And then 10 e-alert setups per day, which I explain to our folks is the e-alerts are basically like working while you're sleeping, right? It's kind of putting your money to work. It's like putting your systems and processes to work so that you're getting more people to raise your hand. And when you have a large organization and like we do, if everyone executes on that every single day, mathematically, it just continues to grow. We get more people raising their hands and wanting to buy, wanting to sell, wanting to invest, and we're engaging in more conversations, which then increases our database. As our database increases, we now have more people to talk to, more people to set up in e-alerts. And so every day we can watch these numbers continue to climb, that if each one of our agents really does go in there and do 10 e-alerts, then we're now getting 30 more people the next day to raise their hand. And then the next day it's 60 more people.
Now,
and so it's a geometric run.
Some people may not know what an e-alert is. So walk us through that.
Yeah. Basically, it's just, so you sign up on my website. I'm making sure that your criteria is set up properly. We're making sure that we've created all these back-end campaigns for different buyers and different sellers or different investors. So we're also making sure that the campaign is linked appropriately. I think people get lazy with this and they think that one campaign fits all. We found that if we get very specific with our campaigns and we tie it and we spend just an extra 15 seconds tying it to the right person based on the conversation, you get a dramatically higher conversion rate.
You know, my buddy Dave Jinks used to say that real estate is a contact sport. And I never forgot that, because in the end, that's correct. And what you're saying is that's it, right? If you literally just go have purposeful contact. I know you made the statement, you don't even have to talk about real estate. Yes, but if you didn't, you're forgiven. But I used to see real estate agents back when I was a team leader. I used to see real estate agents that thought that all you had to do was just be a good person and go out and give to the community. And then Adam Grant a few years ago came out with this book, right, Give and Take, about strategic giving. And so it kind of, for me, what he said made real sense. And because I'd experienced that almost my entire professional career, that purposeful conversation or purposeful giving is going to pay off better. But yeah.
With the 5 SOI, that was something we added during the kind of lockdown over the last 90 days of more of a check-in. Mm-hmm. And we found that people were a little nervous, if you will, not everyone, just a call. And so we just said, don't make it about real estate. Just make it about a check-in for it. And as long as
you know, what's really weird about that, sorry to interrupt, but what's really weird, I'm nodding my head because people are weird about it because they think that real estate calls are sales calls. Yeah. So you had to actually say, don't make a real estate call, which was code for don't make a sales call, right? And man, we got to get past that, don't we? I mean, as a business community, right? I mean, we provide a service. We should feel great about talking about it, but we're not trying to get someone to do something they shouldn't do. Like I always chuckle and say, you know, Adam, in all my years of real estate, right, 40 years, I've never had one buyer call me up, right, and say, man, that Adam, that tricky dude, he sold us a house we didn't want. We weren't even going to buy a house, and he talked us into us and then sold us a house we would never want to buy. Yeah. Never had that happen. And I've never had a seller call up and go, man, that Adam, we had no intention of listing our home. And he tricked us into it. And then he tricked us into selling it for what we did, and then tricked us into buying another. Never happens, does it? So this idea that you're actually going to sell someone, it's kind of a joke, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's a misnomer. We're business people and we help people.
Well, people get lost in their mind and then they start overthinking about the conversation that they just need to have. And you're providing a service to people. You know, it's even when sometimes we're recruiting, like, wow, you guys talk about your company a lot. I go, well, when you believe that it's the best company, when you believe you have the best service and value, I actually think it's a disservice to not talk to as many people as I can to let them know exactly what we're doing and what also it lies on the other end of what we can offer them, what they're doing with now. And so that we just want to lay out the benefits. So why wouldn't I want to talk to every single person about what we're doing if we feel like we're offering something better?
You know, you're flying at such a high place right now and have such a view of the industry. Tell me what you think the challenges you face right now are, if you can. What are the handful of things that you look up and you go, this is going to be a challenge, and or we need to do that much better, or we're going to pay a price? What goes through your head, off the top of your head, when I ask that?
Well, I think it's trying to predict what's going to happen over the next 90 days and try to be in front of it before we can. And I always go back to, you know, as much research as we can to make sure that we are staying ahead of everything so that we can play in the next season that we need to. I also think it's keeping people focused during this time. And we're, you know, when people are working from home and have all sorts of distractions, there's a lot of things that are going on. So how can we keep people engaged and focused and held accountable when we're all remote? So I look at it as in terms of my team, of how do we keep everybody engaged and productive at the highest level possible so we can maintain this so people don't get burnt out. One of the things I saw early on was a lot of leaders jumped in and they're like, let's take this on, let's do this, this is great. And then about 2 weeks into this, they started getting kind of leadership fatigue and realizing, well, this is real. this is really kind of stepping in. And I said, yeah, it's normal. Just accept it. And so how do we get back on track? I think the mistake a lot of people make too is that when they're not hitting their goals, people like to walk in there. If somebody has, been doing one pending for the last 3 days, they go in there, Gary, you need to go in there and get 5 pendings. And it's really not helping the person. I've always taken the approach of, well, let's get them to get 5 appointments first, right? Or 1 appointment first, and then start building some momentum so they can actually get closer to it. And one thing that we've been doing now is, as you have momentum, when you're running downhill, I think that's the time to go in there and say, now let's go after that big goal. Now let's do it. So you can rally everybody around your momentum to keep it going. So the biggest challenge I believe that we're facing is, we put 477 homes under contract in the last 60 days. We've added 30 agents to our organization and some staff members as well too, while cutting expenses, by the way. So everybody's doing more with less. And so how is me as a leader making sure that I get everybody to maintain this level of energy and enthusiasm while we carry us through the next 90 days into whatever life unfolds for us? And so I'm really trying to be on the other side of this with my thinking, so I can pull people there. Like when people talk about leadership, and you correct me if you think I'm wrong, I think leadership is about, when you're leading somebody, it's leading them first with your thinking. The thinking then creates a vortex so that everybody else naturally is able to now go through the hole that you just went through. And so I'm getting all of our leaders to think the same way I do, so that they're creating this vacuum for all the individuals that are on their teams to pull them through as well too, so that the whole organization starts moving forward in the directions that we need it to.
Yeah, that's exactly right. At the end of the day, the simple answer to the future is act like it's now. And that is lead generation. Let's just talk as businesses. Every business has to have leads. They just have to, right? You have to have customers. You have to have them. So you, as a businessman, you have to have customers. Well, you don't lead generate to the market. You lead generate every day for the rest of your life. I have people ask me, do you think I'll always have to be lead generating? And I go, well, you have to have customers. Lead generation is the term we give for getting customers. I think there are a variety of ways you can get them, some that you might enjoy more than others, and that's your prerogative. You still have to hit the number.
Yeah.
And the number, here's what happens. You set it, and I know you do this. You set a number, and I'm going to make one up. I have to make 10 sales this month as an agent. You set that number. You presume, based on the past, that this much X amount of lead generation will generate that number. The market will quickly tell you whether you got the formula right. If you got it right, then that's the number. 2 hours a day, 1 hour a day, 5 hours a day, whatever it is, right? If the market all of a sudden heats up, that same activity is going to give you 12, right? It's going to give you 13. It's going to give you something extra, right? If the market goes and recedes, goes the opposite direction, it's going to give you less. Right? And so what's interesting is, when it gives you more, do you go woohoo and accept that? Or do you throttle back a little bit because really you just wanted 10 and you're right, you don't want more than that, and you would always want to work less, so you throttle back to 10 while others are picking up the slack and doing 15, picking up the ones that you're now not trying to get. On the flip side, the market slows down, and the same activity that was giving you 10 now gives you 5 or gives you 6. Now, you have a choice to make, don't you? Yeah. And that means you have to double down. You can't. Being smarter doesn't help you. At the end of all of this, if you can just pack it into this, at the end of all of this, there's a formula that says X amount of contacts is going to generate X amount of business. That's what you told us at the beginning of this conversation, right? And so if it's only 5, I have a decision to make. I may have to add an extra hour, right, to my day, or 2 hours to my day, to my lead generation, right, in order to find the new number that keeps me at 10. And isn't that really the struggle of every business person, to be willing to move the number around in order, right, of lead gen activity in order to hit the number that they said they were going to hit?
Yeah, it is. And you said it well from it's the business person's activity, because you own a lot of other businesses, and I do too. And it's the same thing. It all falls down into you need clients no matter what you're doing, that you fall in that line. We've been following our top performers, those individuals every month that are doing 10 plus deals for 2 months in a row. And we're actually just monitoring what they're doing on a daily basis to see how much energy they have to put in right now to actually be able to get that. And what we're finding is they don't really track their hours. They're tracking the number of appointments that they need to have. And what we're seeing is it's like 6 or 7 hours a day of what they're doing. They're not sitting down and saying, here's 6 hours a day. They're just naturally lead generating the entire day. So we calibrate that into a number. And every month I have this conversation with our entire organization. I say, look, everyone is going to meet with their team, and your team is you're all going to throw out some goals. Well, goals are really important, but they're also ubiquitous now. They're like Swedish fish at a birthday party. Everyone's throwing them out, right? I believe the new goal is execution. And so I always link that. And I said, I want you to put a number out there, and then I want you to take what we've calibrated to see how long it takes for you to hit, for our top performers to do 10 deals. And that's your goal. Are you willing to actually change your calendar to now reflect the activity that needs to happen based on what we're seeing for the 10 hours that they have to put in order to get those 10 pendings? And if you're not, that's fine, but don't set yourself up to fail by throwing out this number in a meeting that makes you feel good and that supports the goal that you feel like you need to accomplish. Really work backwards and say, I'm willing to go out there, Gary, and give it an hour and a half a day. Okay, if that's what you're willing to do, understand you may put you at 1.5 deals per month. Are you willing to live with that income? Yes or no? If the answer is no, then you need to say, okay, then what income do you need to do? So we're backing into it differently with real data that's coming in the season that we're playing in to support it to our agents.
That's it. Well, you said that so well. We're just going to end on that note. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.